check, check. Quick sound check. Can everybody hear us loud and clear? Welcome to At the Buzzer. You
Were worse than the
understand that we're
monetary
here for the
ones.
president, so we're going to be
They
quiet. We'll let this play for a little bit. But thanks for joining,
Their
everyone.
currencies subsidize their export. You probably see what's happening with all of the, not only car companies, but car companies in particular. You see it with all of the ones they're moving, they're announcing day in, day out. You're seeing it. Nobody's ever seen anything like that. With today's actions, we're also standing up for our great farmers and ranchers who are brutalized by nations all over the world. Brutalized. Canada, by the way, imposes a 250 to 300% tariff on many of our dairy products. They do the first can of milk. They do the first little carton of milk at a very low price, but after that it gets bad, and then it gets up to 275, 300%. So when they're figuring what's Canada charging, they say, oh, about 2%, 3%.
Gold selling off that move as well.
But take a look at what happens down the road. When you look a little bit, it's not a pretty picture, and we don't like it, and it's not fair. It's not fair to our farmers. It's not fair to our country. And with countries like Canada, you know, we subsidize a lot of countries and keep them going and keep them in business. In the case of Mexico, it's $300 billion a year. In the case of Canada, it's close to $200 billion a year. And I say, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? I mean, at what point do we say you got to work for yourselves, and you got to? This is why we have the big deficits. This is why we have that amount of debt that's been placed on our heads over the last number of years.
Just a quick reminder on the headlines that we did just see. U.S. to impose 10% across-the-board tariff on all imports, and effective at midnight, 25% tariff on all foreign autos.
We want to send you our cars. We want to send you everything, but we're not going to take anything that you have. Australia bans, and they're wonderful people and wonderful everything, but they ban American beef, yet we imported $3 billion of Australian beef from them just last year alone. They won't take any of our beef. They don't want it because they don't want it to affect their farmers. And you know what? I don't blame them, but we're doing the same thing right now, starting about midnight tonight, I would say. And China charges American rice farmers an overquota, it's called, a tariff rate of 65%. South Korea charges 50%. Actually, they charge different, from 50% to 513%. And Japan, our friend, charges us 700%. But that's because they don't want us selling rice and other.
Well, troops saying cattle may take a hit on this.
Blame them, Madam Secretary. Agriculture, great job you did on eggs, by the way. The egg prices came down 50%. You got them down 50%. Once we got involved, they were going through the sky. The egg prices, they were going through the sky, and you did a fantastic job. Now we have lots of eggs, and they're much cheaper, down about 59% now, and they're going down further. We charge 2.8% for so many things that other countries are charging 200%, 300%, and 400% for. If imposing tariffs and protective barriers made nations poor, then every country on earth would be racing to eliminate these policies, and China would be the first on line. They run a very strong country, but they're not first in line, and the American people are paying a very big price. From 1789 to 1913, we were a tariff-backed nation, and the United States was proportionately the wealthiest it has ever been. So wealthy, in fact, that in the 1880s, they established a commission to decide what they were going to do with the vast sums of money they were collecting. We were collecting so much money so fast, we didn't know what to do with it. Isn't that a nice problem to have? What do you think, Marco? Good problem? Marco would love that problem, but we don't have that problem anymore, but we're not going to have it very much longer, I will tell you. But they collected so much money, they actually formed a commission to determine what they were going to do with the money, who they were going to give it to, and how much. Then in 1913, for reasons unknown to mankind, they established the income tax so that citizens, rather than foreign countries, would start paying the money necessary to run our government. Then in 1929, it all came to a very abrupt end with the Great Depression, and it would have never happened if they had stayed with the tariff policy. It would have been a much different story. They tried to bring back tariffs to save our country, but it was gone. It was gone. It was too late. Nothing could have been done. It took years and years to get out of that depression, far longer than even FDR had that office right over there for a long period of time. The ramp system, that's rather intricate, was built because of him, and every time you walk up, you think of him, and he did a great job in many ways, but it lasted long beyond his terms, as you know. But it's not too late any longer, and we're going to start being smart, and we're going to start being very wealthy again. We're going to be wealthy as a country because they've taken so much of our wealth away from us. We're not going to let that happen. We truly can be very wealthy. We can be so much wealthier than any country. It's not even believable, but we're getting smart. Nearly a century later, in the face of unrelenting economic warfare, the United States can no longer continue with a policy of unilateral economic surrender. We cannot pay the deficits of Canada, Mexico, and so many other countries. We used to do it. We can't do it anymore. We take care of countries all over the world. We pay for their military. We pay for everything they have to pay, and then when you want to cut back a little bit, they get upset that you're not taking care of them any longer. But we have to take care of our people, and we're going to take care of our people first.
Still pretty much trading in this range,
sorry to say that.
Pretty big reaction with no volume.
Not much volume.
And today we're standing up for the American worker, and we are finally putting America first. In sleepy Joe Biden's last year in office, the United States hemorrhaged 100,000 manufacturing jobs, and the number was going through the roof at levels never seen before. And our trade deficit reached a record $1.2 trillion, which is unheard of. Since the beginning of NAFTA, the worst trade deal ever made, it was a horror show. I was able to terminate it. They all said you'd never be able to get it out. We had to get approval from Congress to get it terminated. We had to live with that deal. It was the worst trade deal ever made by far. But since the very beginning of NAFTA, our country lost 90,000 factories. Think of what that is, 90,000. Think about putting a map up and putting tax on it. You wouldn't have enough room. 90,000. I said, is that possible? We had it checked 4 different times, and it was actually somewhat higher than that. And 5 million manufacturing jobs
this can go
lost
for a couple of hours. We know that.
Trade deficits of $19
let this go for another 5 minutes or so, and then we'll talk about it.
That was the worst trade deal ever made. As a result of these gigantic losses, foreign nations now own $26 trillion more of American assets.
I'm still listening on my side, but let's talk a little bit about the market reaction to what we are seeing here. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this moving train. Happy Tariff Day, happy Liberation Day to everyone. Welcome to At the Buzz, our market recap. This is our first time meeting. I'm Coach Jay. That is Coach Paul. I want to thank everybody for joining. If you haven't done so already, hit that thumbs up, like, and subscribe. So headlines, what we've gotten so far. Trump, U.S. to impose 10% across the board tariff on all imports. Effective at midnight, 25% tariff on foreign autos. Trump did say we cannot pay the deficits of Canada and Mexico, and starting tomorrow, the U.S. is going to implement reciprocal tariffs. We are seeing, pop in the equity markets, Coach, from that announcement. The NASDAQ is up about 200 points, almost 250 points. We did see a move in gold, kind of back and forth as well. Move in copper. We've seen copper making all-time highs recently, and it popped there as well. And like you mentioned, Coach, micro Bitcoin. So interesting day. Interesting day in the markets in general. But even before this price action that we've seen, we had a 600-point range day in the NASDAQ. So a ton going on here. NASDAQ trading right below that 20,000 major level. And now, is this the pop that we've been looking for, Coach, to maybe start the some of the relief rally? Markets have been under heavy sell pressure for the past month and a half. And we're seeing a big pop in buying here. How are you looking at this right now, Coach?
Well, I'm looking at the longer term. We talked about this this week, the 20-day moving average. Interestingly, in the S&P, the 20-day moving average, what I have on my chart is 57.12. We settled at 57.12 and a quarter, and we're moving higher from that. This tells me a longer term buyer, bigger money is coming in, going to feel safe. Also, on the other side, should put pressure on shorts funds. Will begin to cover. So this is gaining some momentum to the upside. I think it has a good chance of continuing, but that means nothing. One of the things on this aftermarket
67%, I think you can, for the most
He is-
part,
trade,
see
as
it.
we've seen,
He is pulling up a
Good eyes
chart
with
here,
bad
Coach. Let's
eyes.
see what he's talking
We
about
didn't
here.
want to bring, it's very windy out here. We didn't want to bring out the big charts because it had no chance of standing. Fortunately, we came armed with a little smaller chart. So 67%, so we're going to be charging a discounted reciprocal tariff of 34%. I think, in other words, they charge us, we charge them, we
34%
charge them
tariff on
less. How
imports
can
from
anybody
China.
be upset?
20%
They will
tariff on
be
the
because
EU.
we never charge anybody anything, but now we're going to charge.
Well,
European
this market
Union,
did
they're
not
very
like that.
tough, very, very tough
Well,
traders.
S&P's selling off from there.
You know, you think
Gold
of
rally.
European Union, very
Gold
friendly,
rallying
they
here.
rip us
This
off.
Topstep
It's
X.
so
Day
sad to
trade on
say.
the gold.
It's so
Let's see what
pathetic.
we got here. The market did not like
39%,
that.
we're going to charge them
at all.
20%, so we're charging them essentially half. Vietnam, great negotiators, great people.
That was the
They like
liberation
me,
move.
I like them. The problem is they charge us
What are you saying there,
90%.
Coach?
We're going to charge them 46% tariff. Taiwan, where they took all of our computer
What
chips
a
and
move.
semiconductors. We used to be the king, right?
Equities gave back that
We-
entire move. Gold
everything.
making
We
new
had all
all-time
of it.
highs.
Now we have almost none of it, except the biggest company is coming in. We're going to end up with
Boy,
almost
that's a
40%.
decent
Lee
volume,
Zeldin's
too.
working to get
Yeah,
their
gold
approvals.
just popped. Gold trading 31.
And it's an
gold trading
amazing company. Mr. Wei
198.
of one of the great companies of
Pushing
the
higher,
world, actually. They're
3200
coming in from Taiwan,
right
and they're going
above
to
here
build
in gold,
one of the biggest
making new
plants in the
all-time
world,
highs
maybe the
as we're
biggest
watching
for
this,
that.
Coach.
But 64%, we're going to charge them
Look at that.
32%. Japan, very,
We
very
saw that
tough.
earlier,
Great
I
people.
noticed that J trade.
And
So
again, I
it's-
don't blame the
the
people for
gold-
doing it. I think they're very smart in doing it. I blame the people
Yep,
that
it
sat
looks like
right in
it's
that
on the
Oval
way.
Office, right over there, right behind the
center.
Resolute desk or whichever desk they chose.
S&P's almost coming to
Japan, 46%. They would charge us 46%, and much higher for certain items like cars, little items like cars. 46%, we're charging them 24%.
NASDAQ,
India, very, very tough, very, very tough.
Wow.
Prime Minister
That's an
just left.
engulfing
He's a
candle.
great friend of mine, but I said,
I'm
you're a friend of
actually
mine, but
impressed by the volume.
you're not treating us right. They
Yep.
charge us 52%.
Yeah, some serious volume behind
You have
that.
to understand, we charge them almost nothing for
85,000
years and years and
contracts
decades. And
traded.
it was only
So these markets are
7
ready.
years
This
ago
is-
when I came in,
this
we
is
started with
very
China and
bearish
charged them. We took
looking.
in hundreds of billions of dollars from China
I
in
just
tariffs.
I saw a
And
chart
they
earlier
understood,
today of the gold
honestly.
versus
President Xi
the,
understood. He said,
Dow
look, I understand. And the other countries,
over
and they
the
all
last 50
understand.
years.
We're going to have to go through a little tough love,
Oh,
maybe.
new lows
But
in
they all understand.
S&Ps.
They're ripping us off, and they understood it.
We just moved 100
Prime Minister of Japan,
over 100 points.
Shinzo,
100 points.
was
since we
Shinzo
got on
Abe.
air.
This is crazy
He
move.
was a
Nasdaq
fantastic
tagged
man. He
20,000s,
was
and we're down at
unfortunately taken
19,358
from
right now.
us,
700 point move
assassination.
there.
But
After
I went to him
announcing
and I said, Shinzo,
the
we have to do something. A
tariffs.
trade
US
is not fair.
I'm gonna mute this a little
He
bit
said,
later
"I
so we
know
can hear
that."
it. U.S. to apply 31% tariffs on Switzerland, 49% on Cambodia, 30% in South Africa, 10% on tariffs on imports from the UK, 24% tariff on Japan, 46% in Vietnam. This is all in financial juice. 34% from China, 20% on the EU. This is what he was talking about with this liberation coach. I'm going to turn our volume up a little bit so we can hear it, but that's why we're seeing this market reaction right now.
We're going to bring it down to 49. They made a fortune with the United States of America.
That's
United Kingdom,
just
10%.
Quite a move here.
And we'll go
in the last
10%.
10 minutes.
So we'll do the same thing. South Africa, 60%, 30%, and they've got some bad things going on in South Africa.
We can
We're
talk
paying
about that
them
later.
billions of dollars, and we cut the funding because a lot of bad things
This
are happening in
market
South
is
Africa. The
rejecting
fake news
whatever
ought to be
was
looking
being
at it. They
said.
don't want to report it.
Yeah,
Um,
Brazil, 10%, 10%. Bangladesh
he's still going.
is 74%. So
well,
you see what's
yeah,
going on.
this probably will
Pakistan,
continue for a while.
58%.
Crude oil broke pretty hard.
Sri Lanka, 88%. So what we're doing is we're taking not the full. We
what
could take
kind
the
of-
full
we're at
88%. Thanks a lot.
330.
He's doing a very good job. How's he doing? All right. I think you better take it with you. It's not going to last very long.
Until the market
He's going
closes.
to it's going to follow you down with the wind.
I'm looking at the S&P, and this is
brought a hat
moving
just in
5
case it got too
points
windy.
at a
But
tick.
here, would anybody like a hat?
He's giving out hats now, Coach.
I'm not giving it to a cabinet. I'm giving it to the auto workers. Come here.
Chat is asking where limit down is right now.
Thank you, fellas.
So remember, settlement in the
that's
NASDAQ was
That's
about
it.
604. So we're only down
They deserve
1%.
it more than our cabinet. Our cabinet has plenty of hats. But you see the numbers. The numbers are so disproportionate. They're so unfair. At the same time, we will establish a minimum baseline tariff of 10%. You notice that on the chart? And that'll be on other countries to help rebuild our economy and to prevent cheating. So we're going to have a minimum of cheating, and we're going to be very severe on the people that at the gate that watch the tariffs and watch the product coming in, because there's been a lot of
that rally was
bad
given
things
up
happening at the gate
literally
because the money is so enormous that you're talking about. There's never been probably anything like it in terms
I'm going to turn him down again just in case. So we can talk about this a little bit more from a technical perspective, Coach. But this is pretty crazy going on here right now. Let me turn this down so we can hear each other think. Wow, what a move. So the NASDAQ traded up to 20,000 and rejected almost immediately 3% sell-off from there. We're down about 700 points in 5 minutes. The S&Ps traded up to 57.70, and we're down 2.5% from the high, down 140 points in about the same amount of time. Gold did tag that 3,200 evens. We're making new all-time highs in gold and pulling off a little bit now. But wow, Coach, what a move. And like you said, with some volume after hours, we did run up in the NASDAQ above that 20 moving average, which we've been talking about being a resistance on the way down. And it looks like that is still the case. A couple of technical levels that we may want to look at here, Coach. We had the August 5th lows in the NASDAQ. See if we can look at this. August 5th lows in the NASDAQ. The high of that daily candle was right around 19,130. We tagged that on Monday of this week. And it looks like we're pushing right back into that range right now, Coach.
Yes, we are. We're just going to settle below the 200 simple moving average on the half hour. We got close to the 20-day moving average on the daily, just rejecting this. With, like you just said, we talked with some volume. On other reports, when we've had this, the volume is not even close to what we're seeing right now.
Nope.
This is like normal volume. So this
for after hours, when most people, right, look at us, we can't trade right now. Some people still can, but where there's going to be thin order books, this is more volume in that last 2-3 minute candles ago, more volume than we had during the open, which we know is that highest volume of the day. So that was some serious selling. Trump to foreign leaders: terminate your own tariffs and start buying American goods. He calls these kind reciprocal tariffs. So it's almost like he's doing a favor to our trade partners here. But NASDAQ just reversed that entire move here, Coach. I have the headlines up on the side. So if anything else does pop, we'll bring the audio back in. But I'll take this stream off for now, and we will go from there. Wow, what a what a session so far. What a segment. How was everyone's trading day? Let us know how you did in the chat. Were you up on the day, down on the day? Maybe you stayed out today because of the potential insanity for today. But I think, like we've been saying, Coach, all month, these markets, all year, really, these markets are presenting opportunities to both sides. We saw what looked like a potential short covering rally all the way up into the close for us to then just continue to sell off. So looks like we got some people doing good in the chat.
Good.
Tony Rodriguez, I like that. You navigated. It's a good way to say you stayed alive in what was a pretty crazy day. Let's go through these charts a little bit technically, Coach. I'm on a daily on the NASDAQ. What are we looking at on this daily chart?
Well, right now we're making new lows. Hold on one second. Well, we went. I lost my. I lost my place here.
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
all good. I got you,
And I
coach.
just had. Yeah,
I got you.
you
Don't worry about it.
start.
Yep. So we are making new lows. So we were talking about being under this 200 moving average on the daily. This is the most amount of time we've spent under this 200 moving average since 2022. When we started the week with the market kickoff on Sunday, we talked about being in correction territory in the Nasdaq, and that correction potentially turning into a bear market with the Nasdaq being under 18,000. Now, with this market's reaction and how long we've been under this 200 moving average, the last time we had a bear market was 2022. The last time we spent this much time under the 200 moving average on the daily was 2022. We can see right now we're tagging the highs of that daily candle from August 5th, right around these
With a wick.
130s, with a wick on the upper end, right? This 20 moving average getting accelerated to the downside, acting as a resistance. And Coach Vince called out a little bit earlier in the week the potential death cross of the 50 moving average crossing below the 200. 50 moving average right now is at 21,013. 200 moving average at 20,929. I would have to think that tomorrow on the open, that purple line is going to be a little bit closer to the white one, if not crossing over it.
This this is very bearish action
Yeah.
on a charting. That wick goes to the 20. So we can define that from my point of view as short covering. If it was fresh buying, we settled right at that moving average.
Yeah, we
And
did.
with this
Uh,
volume that we came in this last half an hour, which is exceptional volume for this time of day.
Just
This
made new
is
lows on heavy volume. 19,130 new lows in the Nasdaq. Trump's 25% auto tariffs will extend to nearly 600 billion worth of auto parts, computer imports, analysis on tariff codes listed in Federal Register. See if we can bring him back in. See if we're getting any other news.
I do as many as I can. I'm pretty busy trying to stop Russia and Ukraine, and you got a pretty even split. But we have so far it looks
Gold
like
pulling
we're
off the
about
highs.
$6 trillion of investments, and you
And
wouldn't
this
do
is
that in years.
yeah. I'm sorry about earlier.
In this country, over
I'm
the
trying to
last
sell the
number of years,
Nasdaq and
$6
the
trillion
S&P while I was doing
and
that.
it's going to
I
be
had
much
too many
higher by the
charts
end of
up,
the
but
year.
yeah, it was that
And
quick.
think of what $6 trillion is. You wouldn't have
So
even a small percentage
yeah,
of that.
let's look at the
Under this
S&P
other
on the
system.
daily
We're going to be an
real quick.
entirely different country,
Hold
and
on,
it's going
Coach.
to be
Let's
fantastic for the workers. It's going to be
listen
stick on
fantastic
these.
we got
for
something
everyone.
Let's stick on these.
There will never have been a
moves right
transformation
now
of a
in the
country
market.
like the transformation that's
we'll
already
look at the daily
happening
and the S&P,
in
but
the
let's stick with
United
what's
States of
going on here.
America. It's an incredible thing to watch, and it's incredible to meet with the top
Coach
people,
Dakota,
people that you read
thank
about,
you
very
from
wealthy
20K to
people, or people that are
19K
great
and
managers
1,000
and
points in a
executives
few
and
minutes.
presidents of big public companies.
Yeah,
And to watch the
it's
enthusiasm
exactly
they
it.
have now that
This
they didn't
is-
have. They gave up on our country. They went to foreign countries and they built.
Well,
Companies are
tomorrow
pouring into our country at levels
I
never
hate to
seen before,
sound,
with jobs and money
doomsday-ish,
to
but
follow. And it's
this is a total rejection.
Yep.
And we've been all this energy waiting for this, and this is reaction.
100%. 100%. Really nice sell-off. S&P still making new lows. 55.87 trading right now. 55.87 in the S&Ps. 19,180 in the Nasdaq. Gold, Andre, that's the trade. Gold makes a new all-time high. Pulls off 20 points. Gold tagged that 3,200 level. Now trading 20 points lower, 31.79. We did see a pop in crude also. And Coach, when we start getting into analyzing the charts, I do want you to go over what you're seeing in the Treasury markets, because we know that
Yeah.
those are some of the biggest markets. But we did see a pop in crude up to $72. Crude now trading about $1 off of that, 70.86. S&P is still making new lows. These markets close, like you said, Coach, in about 20 minutes. So there is still opportunity to continue to sell this. We saw this was 3 days ago now. We saw when the markets closed, we sold off an extra 100 points after the close. So this has the potential to continue going much lower at this point. There was a point this week where we did trade under that 19,000 major level in the Nasdaq, 18,976, the low of the week so far, low of the year so far, and it looks like we could potentially be going to take that out
Yeah.
before we actually officially close here, Coach.
Yeah, I want to throw a shout out to Coach Vince for reminding us that death cross.
Yep.
I think it was when's the last time was COVID. The time before that was the 2008 crisis. That kind of action. Now we get this news. Longer term investors are sitting. As an old Southern trader I used to call it, nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs.
Huh.
So this can give them, it could hype the fear. Like, okay, maybe they start calling in.
Yep. Yeah. And we're getting that cross potentially, Coach, here on the S&P and the Nasdaq, right? 59.41 on the 50 moving average, 59.20, and still making new lows as we speak.
Yeah.
19,100 in the Nasdaq, 55.75.
NASDAQ about almost 500 lower now.
Wow. 500
Um,
lower, 1,000 points from the high, and continuing to sell. Slow markets with Dakota should be fun. Traders, if you are going to trade this, I know some of us are probably chomping at the bit to get into these markets right now. That Globex Open is going to continue this volatility for sure. Markets are pretty thin. Nasdaq right now down 2.5%. The S&P is down 1.75% and continuing to sell lower. Trade smart traders. We talked about that ATR value decreasing. It's right back up where it was, Coach. Let me turn the president up one more time to see if we're getting anything else.
I took in hundreds of billions of dollars in my term, hundreds of billions. They never paid 10 cents to any other president, and yet they paid hundreds of billions, so much so that Biden couldn't do anything. They wanted to try and terminate it because he had a very special relationship with China. You know what the relationship was? He had a special relationship. But the numbers were so big, that they couldn't do it. So they did ease it up. They did things that they shouldn't have done. They made it a lot more comfortable for them, but they couldn't do it because the numbers were hundreds of billions of dollars, and I did that. And we were on our way to doing something like incredible. And then we had a very bad election happen, a lot of bad things happened. So when I said we got to do it again, I said we have to make it too big to rig, and we made it too big to rig, and we won in records, and it was a monumental win. And it was such an honor to see so many of you, like Brian and your friends, here with us to celebrate, and to more importantly celebrate what we're doing, because that wouldn't be a full celebration if we didn't do this, because this will be an entirely different country in a short period of time. It'll be something the whole world will be talking about it. The critics made the very tired predictions earlier this year, but in February, core inflation dropped to the lowest rate in 4 years. And the price of eggs, as you know, just in a month and a half,
here so we can see
were there for
what those tariff numbers are.
weeks. And the first week, I got blamed for eggs. I said, I just got here. They said eggs have gone up
those are
at like
within the range of
250%, and you can't get eggs.
Larger?
And they were going
I don't know if there
crazy.
were
And I said,
expectations, to be
I
honest with you,
just got here.
Okay.
And then we,
Not sure what anyone was really expecting on this, but these are the numbers that we have here.
Well, more important is the reaction,
Right.
at least in the equities.
What we have on this chart here
As
are
I
the
said
tariffs
before, the
charged
price
by
of
these
eggs
countries
dropped now
to
59%, and they're going down more
the
and more.
US, and then what the reciprocal is. So
Saying that
it looks like most of these are still lower than what other countries are charging. So I think that's maybe why he called these kind tariffs. So maybe even inferring that there's room for these to increase. Who knows if that's what the plan is, but to call these kind after these raises, who knows what he might be planning here.
Groceries went through the roof, And I campaigned on that. I talked about the word groceries for a lot.
Well,
And
what we
energy
do know
costs now are down. Groceries are
is
down.
the
Gasoline is
output
way under $3.
of the
And
market,
people are
and
Yep.
this is
getting
not
Selling hard.
friendly.
buy things
Not at
and
all.
live again. We brought prices way down.
This is almost the largest volume
10,000
of the half
already
hour
in a few
of the
weeks.
day.
New
I've
manufacturing
never
jobs,
seen it
and
like
was,
that
that
before.
took place
So
in 1 month.
it's not just a
Numbers
price
that they haven't
movement.
seen in a long time. We had virtually no inflation under my term. We had virtually no inflation for 4 years, but after transitioning over to Sleepy Joe, it went from almost non-existent to the highest in the history of our country. They're the highest inflation in the history of our country, brought up by energy and bad spending and bad policy, and a lot of bad things happened. How about allowing millions and millions
We're
and
still
millions
staying
of people
towards the
to pour
bottom of
into
that
a
range.
country with
Yes,
Slow
we are.
down a bit here.
where the
Turn that down just a little bit, and we'll continue to talk about it. Nasdaq made lows after that, selling off from 20,000. We are testing that August 5th candle again. 1975 was the low there in the Nasdaq. In the S&P's 55, 55.67. Nasdaq down 2.36%. S&P's down 1.62. The Nikkei down almost 2%. The Russell down 1.81%. Gold made that all-time high, popped from there. I don't think the rally in gold is over at all after this. I think it might be just getting started for what we're seeing here, tagging that 3,200, Coach.
Well, gold could accelerate. And we've been talking, it's been reasonable. Earlier, I was talking about that gold versus the Dow chart. What was a 50-year chart? I don't have here. I saw it on a friend of mine gave it to me. But what does that mean? The world is changing. They're putting money in gold, not in U.S. equities. That's the bottom line.
Yep.
And we've been covering that for a while now. It's just gaining momentum. This action right now just probably added 1% to that movement.
Trump reiterates that tax cuts will be passed.
non-union people and everybody else, but we need people and the farmers. And we're going to let people come in, but they want to come in. We want them to come in legally. They have to have the capability of loving our country, not people that hate our country. We don't want them in our country. And now we're going to pass the largest tax cuts in American history, and that's where we're relying on Mike and John.
Need more immigrants to work in plants.
And we will not cut Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid benefits, and the Democrats will, because if they got in, the entire economy would collapse. This country was heading
Folks
for a
saying
collapse.
watch the dollar.
Under
Dollar
the
getting
people
sold off
that
right
you
now as
saw.
well.
They were horrible. I think one of the reasons people like the job. I have my highest approval ratings because
right now.
I think they're comparing me to the worst administration in the history of
Yeah,
our
the
country.
yen is sitting near its highs of the day. Had a huge candle on the half hour in that, an engulfing reversing candle, made new lows on the day, then completely reversed to be we're near the highs of the day. Good call, Hoag. This could. Now we don't have access to the dollar index, but euro currency. Made a huge spike. If you have that, wow. Well, part of that, they want to weaken the dollars to create more exports. Who's they? Part of the plan is that increase exports to help the trade deficit. That's one way to do it, but that's also inflationary.
Gotcha.
Is gold still holding those hot near the highs?
Let's take a look at it. We'll bring the president back in. We're going to cut his audio at the top of the hour, and we'll spend the last 15 minutes kind of talking through it. So let's just see if he's talking about anything else here.
All of the other things that the Senate budget plan gives us, along with working, because I know they're working together, John and Mike, and the two bills are going very well together. We need to get our shared priorities done, including certain permanent tax cuts. We want the tax cuts to be permanent, spending cuts, energy and historic investments in defense, border, and so much more. We're covering
Social
everything.
Security
These
will not be cut.
Phenomenal. There'll be no bill like this going to straighten. One bill
have
is
to
going to
get
straighten out
a
our
debt
country for many, many years
extension
to come. And we said, let's just do it and let's get it done. And some guys will love it and some guys will like it a little bit less because they're not getting what they were exactly looking for, but they're getting a lot. They'll never, if we get this done, it'll be the most incredible bill ever passed in the history of our Congress and Senate and congressmen, the senators and the congressmen, many of whom are here today, will be very proud of themselves. I really believe that it's going to set us on a whole new prosperous path. We're going to cut spending and right-size the budget back to where it should be. We're going to do that very strongly. Thank you, Rick. Thank you. John, thank you. Oh, look at all of our senators over there. Oh, boy. That's a nice group of people. But I won't like them so much if they don't get this bill done. That's a great group.
Nikkei making new
Thank
lows.
you very much. I appreciate it. Tremendous people. The Senate plan has my complete and total support, and the House plan likewise is very similar. They're moving along pretty much at the same clip, and as soon as you're ready, you'll show it to me, and I'm sure it'll have my support, Mike. Every Republican congressman and senator must unify. We have to unify. We can't be separated. We have to get it done. We have to get absolutely everything we can, and we have to take care of the American people. That's the only thing that matters. We have to take care of the American people first. We need to pass this bill immediately, get it done, including debt extension. From this day on, we're not going to let anyone tell us that American workers and families cannot have the future that they deserve. We're going to produce the cars and ships, chips, airplanes, minerals, and medicines that we need right here in America. The pharmaceutical companies are going to become roaring back. They're coming roaring back. They're all coming back to our country because if they don't, they got a big tax to pay. And if they do, I'll be very happy, and you're going to be very happy, and you're going to be very safe. We're going to build our future with American hands, with American heart, American steel, and we're going to build it with American pride like we used to. We're approaching our 100th day as president and have been given credit by a lot of people, actually. Even some of the fake news, can you believe it? Which in this case hopefully isn't fake. For having done more in that time than any other administration in the history of our country in the first 100 days. I think we've had an amazing, in terms of what we've done, what we've gotten accomplished. I'd like to see if we can get that war ended and another war from not starting in the Middle East. We have to get Russia. They're losing 2,000 on average, 2,500 people a day, young people, soldiers, Russian, think of that. 2,500 through some days, but on average, probably over about a 1 week period, it's 2,712, they say. They're losing those soldiers. They're dying. They're being decimated. And they're not from our country, but they're from other countries, but they're human beings. They're from Russia. They're from Ukraine in this period, most of them. And we're going to get it stopped. It's a senseless war that would have never happened if I was president, and it shouldn't be allowed to go on. And I think we're being given good cooperation by Russia and by Ukraine, but we have to get it stopped.
He's still going.
Humanity. It's humanity. It's a terrible thing.
We're going to let him continue to go
to see
if the markets do sell off. He's still talking. We got about 5 minutes until the market's closed. Once the market closes, Coach,
free nation that we're dealing with. We're going to have a very free and beautiful nation.
Thanks everyone for sticking around.
It's going to be Liberation Day in America, and it's going to be a day that hopefully you're going to look back in years to come and you're going to say, you know, he was right. This has turned out to be one of the most important days in the history of our country. God bless you and God bless America. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
All right, there we go. He's done now. So we will take that down for now. All right. Wow. All right. How's everybody feeling? Everybody doing all right? I just do want to pull up another image so we can talk about that as well, Coach. But we heard what the president's plans were for Liberation Day. Seeing the market's reaction to it. Get this image back up here in the middle. That over here. So here was the plan: reciprocal tariffs on a bunch of different countries that are charging the U.S. Currently with tariffs. You can take a screenshot of this. This was on Financial Juice as well. But this was what the plan was. Again, the president did call these kind reciprocal tariffs. And in my mind, coach, when I hear that word kind, and we're seeing, these numbers here, it leaves room for potential increases in these numbers. Maybe if some of these countries, like the president, did just mention, to cut their tariffs. So we're seeing the market reaction from it. And let's see how we open up, right? I think the Globex Open in about an hour is going to be very interesting. But this is what we have here for now, Coach. I'm going to pull these. Go ahead.
Crude oil's breaking hard right now.
Crude oil selling at the moment.
Yeah. So we have what, 2 minutes left to the close.
2 minutes to the close.
Let's watch the NASDAQ close.
Pull it up here. NASDAQ did make a low at 1975-ish, we'll call it. Did bounce about 150 points from there, currently trading 19,174. The Russell getting hooked right now. Russell lows of the day trading 1980, down 2.3%. That just sold off a little more in the past 5 minutes or so. Nikkei continuing to sell as well. Gold holding pretty nicely right now. I think gold is going to have a hell of the rest of the week. A hell of a move the rest of the week. NASDAQ selling. S&P is trading 55.80 currently, just off the lows of the day, down 1.67%. So we will see how this, markets respond tomorrow. I know some people were talking about, potential limit down and things like that. If we look at the high of the move in the NASDAQ, that's still not even 5%, a 5% sell-off. So limit down, is there the potential for it? We've had some days that, weren't liberation days where we saw 5% down moves. Now that the market has this information, it should be pretty interesting, but that limit down level is around 7%, right? Just for anybody who's keeping track of that. See, we got some other headlines here. Trump plans on sectoral tariffs for semiconductors, pharmaceuticals, and potentially critical minerals. These also won't be covered by the new regime. Right, so pretty much tariffs on everything. Tariffs everywhere, Coach. You get a
tariffs everywhere. We got 15 seconds left. We're sitting right near the low.
Yep.
On the NASDAQ and the S&P. So if we see any kind of spike here.
And a little push there, and
turn off the machines.
Turn those machines off. Okay, NASDAQ closing there, 19,152. Remember, settlement price is going to be way higher than that. Where the NASDAQ settled was up near 19,740. So if we open up here, we're going to be down, already almost 2%, right? When if you look at that settlement number, the S&P is closing at 55.84. Settlement was up at 57.11. Is where we're going to get that settlement price from. So, wow. Gold 31.90, and what else do we have here? 1979. Hopefully, I didn't say that incorrectly. I think our settlement prices are going to be up higher than where we
the gold settlement.
Well, gold settlement was, we had that 3 hours ago.
Yeah. Settle in the NASDAQ is 19,758.
Wow, much higher. Much higher.
S&P was 57.12, as we talked earlier. Oh, wow. That was that 20-day moving average. So this last half an hour.
Yeah.
We incorporated the whole day's range. With volume, which is a little different when I'm talking about with volume. When we have earnings, big earnings reports, the volume is less than average. Right? Yep. This is larger, almost larger than average volume. That's real selling. So let's see. Let's go through the damage.
Let's take a look at it. Coach Dakota, if you're in the chat, if you can do a poll for us, let's poll the chat. Do we open up with a gap up or gap down? I'm gonna just I think that's probably a 90% poll gap down. I'm curious what that gap might be. But let's see what the damage was. Let's go chart by chart here, Coach. I am on let's go to the NASDAQ since most of our traders are trading that. We got the NASDAQ on the daily, closing below that 20 moving average. Inside of that range of the August 5th lows here, Coach.
Yeah.
What are we looking at here?
I'm looking for that target possibly tomorrow. This is picking up steam on the way down, rejecting. We have a death cross hanging over us. By the way, that's a real thing. I mean, there are big funds that will liquidate with that. So yeah, I'm seeing that is not a bottom. That's how I see it right now.
Yep.
It's got more room to go. We have that. We'll see that gap. What do you see?
Yeah, I think we gap. We we're closing inside the range of this candle from August 5th. I think this is now the time. We tested it once that we potentially trade through this imbalance, maybe back down to this 50% 18,600 potential level here, which seems far, but it's less than 3%, about 500 points. We just saw 1,000 points in a couple 3-minute candles. So tomorrow will be interesting. I think the markets are going to tell us, and that's what you and I could go with, Coach, because we have to trade it at the end of the day, right? We got the news at this point. The news is out. Is there going to be potential follow-up? Yes, right? We got another headline, senior White House official. Trump will respond to retaliation by other countries to ensure that the emergency order is not undermined. So what does that mean? If other countries increase, there's going to be more increases. So, at this point, is it over or is it just beginning? Who knows? I would not be the first person trying to buy this, Coach. I'll say it that way from a trade perspective.
From a trade perspective, and you've heard me say, and I've said it many times, I had to shed my economics background to learn how to trade.
Yep.
But all the history I've studied or read, trade wars are not economically positive. I'll just put a positive spin on that. This has some serious undertones. When does it stop? It can easily get out of hand. So it looks like the bigger money has waited to hear, and they've made a decision. Whether it's hedging, getting short, that just this last half an hour tells the tale.
Yes, it does. We got some questions in the chat. Is this good for the dollar? We saw the dollar selling off. We saw the rally in gold currently. But at the end of the day, traders, we have to trade this, right? We have to trade. I would suggest, from a just a logistics perspective, maybe trading micros if you're going to be trading the equities, if they're going to be this crazy. I could imagine that the order books are going to be pretty thin. And what we've been seeing, a month and a half, if there's any bigger orders that are coming in, they've been to the sell side. And I think maybe the markets just felt like this was coming. But there's room lower if that's going to happen.
Let's take a quick peek at the weekly.
Let's take a quick peek at the weekly. So far on the weekly, that is a pretty bearish candle there.
Wow. Yeah. And this is, like I said, it's picking up momentum as it goes lower. Like I said last month, I get this inkling. My spidey senses are feeling the same way I felt in 07 and 08, which were great years.
Yeah,
from a trading point of view.
Seller. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. All right, so Coach, we didn't talk about the treasuries at all really through that.
Yeah.
what are we seeing here? We saw a little bit of a pop afterwards. I'm looking at the 30-year chart. We got a little bit of a pop here. And if you all can do so, we thank you for joining us. Hit that like button,
Yeah.
hit that subscribe for a special Liberation Day version of At the Buzzer. If this is your first time here, I'm Coach Jay. That's Coach Paul. We do this here every day, but not every day is like today. Coach, what are we seeing in these Treasury products?
It's been trending up slowly after a long, long break, and it can't be hard. That's not news to most people or paying a mortgage. But now we're playing at the 200-day moving average, and we kind of rejected it earlier. But in this speech, we moved a full handle, which is a huge move for bonds in a half an hour. They don't usually do it. So most of the range really was in the half an hour. Looks like rates are going to go lower. Why? Because there's more buyers than sellers at the end of the day.
Right.
But big move on there. Held a 200 moving average on the half hour, which it bounced off of with urgency. Perhaps some lower interest rates ahead.
Lower interest rates would mean higher prices in these futures. Right now, we're trading at the 200 moving average on the daily. This is the 30-year. And if we look, this is a potential area of resistance, right? We've sold off from here the last couple of times, but could this just break out after some of this news?
Yeah, you could see flight to safety.
Yep.
I mean, if they're going, here's how the flow works. Take your money out of risky assets and put it in less risky assets,
Yep.
such as treasuries. It's time-honored tradition, and it seems like that's happening again.
Yep. JT Irby with a comment. Too many are getting overly bearish, and that makes me cautious. Yeah. Are we saying that some of these markets, the equity markets, are just a blind sell? We're traders, and especially with Topstep accounts, we're day traders at the end of the day. So Coach Paul and I talk about it all the time. The news is extremely bearish. The market's selling off. On a higher time frame, does it look great? Maybe if you're a longer time frame investor and you're looking for better prices to buy some assets. But from a trade perspective, I would be leaning to the short side. Now, anything can happen. I've been leaning to the short side pretty much the last month, right? Because that's what the higher time frame has said. Are there trades to the long side? 100%. But for a day trade, it almost sell the rally has been the move for a month and a half at this point. But I can
Yeah.
see, could we see a pop where the market got its news and it says, okay, we're good now? Volume is going to let us know that.
Well, it's a great question, and I want to reiterate what you said. That's all talk. We're day traders.
Yep.
This goes back to having a trading plan, executing the trading plan. I guess if your trading plan and you see an opportunity, which is a buy, but you don't take it because it's bearish, not a good plan. You got to trade your plan. Without a plan, though, in these kinds of markets with the volatility, it's easy to get whipsawed.
Yep.
You absolutely have to protect yourself from that. So yeah, good point. Yeah, there's good buys in here. Actually, I think a really good trader does the buy side and makes money in a bearish market. Well, it's the easy one is selling it in a bearish market. But yeah, it is a lot of talk. But here's why from a flow point of view, we've been waiting for this quote unquote Liberation Day for what? Better
Since it was
part of
announced.
since it was announced. And here's the news and the violent reaction with volume.
During a time where most market participants are not trading, right? So this is serious volume after the close. When most market participants can come back into these markets, we'll see what the real opinion is.
Yeah. So, but it's still a great question. Yeah. It goes back to this. We're reviewing, go and look at, but hey, you have to trade your plan. No matter what it is, whether you want to buy it or sell it, you still have to have some entry and exit with risk management. That's the prerogative. That's what you have to do. So there's going to be opportunity on both sides. My feeling is the sell side's going to be a bigger range to the sell side. That's from my experience. That's the way I'm looking at it.
Yep.
But trade your plan and plan the trade.
100%.
What else we want to look at?
I think we went through it, Coach. Like Andre says, I'm gonna need a cigarette and a sandwich after that one. Andre, I had to steal your line, but okay. So one thing I did get a question about from a technical perspective. Someone asked, "Am I gonna frame out this high volume candle?" And look at the potential from there. So yes, right. So we got the highest volume on a 3-minute chart. Uh, right here, this is 4:27 Eastern time. The range of that candle 19,776 down to 19,377. I attached a VWAP to there. And what I'm looking for from a technical perspective is, do we get a retest of this VWAP and continue to sell from there? We can already see that volume left that range to the downside. This VWAP left that range. So if this continues to act as a resistance on the way down, that's what I would be potentially looking to sell against. Right now, we can see it's kind of at the open of the New York session today. So if we get a retest of that during normal trading hours, I wouldn't be too surprised at that. But looking to sell from there, and if we accept back inside this candle, 19,377, maybe then we get the rotation through it. Coach, we know that these imbalances do like to get filled at some point. Maybe not all the time, but there's a lot of buying that needs to happen before that. Maybe we see some short covering to get back up there, but the markets are going to tell us. The markets are going to tell us.
But I like that idea.
Mhm.
Obviously, this is a viewer who's watched us before, and I love that idea.
Yep.
Can set you up to read the flow.
Yeah. 100%.
One of the things, when does selling fail? Well, that high volume candle, if it gets higher than that, we could say that selling failed. Until then,
They are still in control of the markets. Tesla down 6% right now. Yeah, those are my Nvidia longs are not going to be looking great tomorrow. I'll say that. But it's okay.
well,
I'll look at them in 5 years.
those are investments that are looking like investments now,
Right.
but over the long term, it's a blip.
Right. All right. Any other markets that we want to discuss, Coach? Anything that you got that might be on your scouting report going into tomorrow? If you guys are watching for the first time, every once in a while we ask Coach Paul what his scouting report might be. We talk about the major markets, the Nasdaq, the S&P, gold, crude oil. Every once in a while, Coach Paul pulls up something from his scouting report that might be moving as well. I could probably guess what it is, Coach, but anything that you might be looking at going into tomorrow.
Well, maybe it's Japanese yen,
Japanese
which
yen
is
that saw a pop.
yeah. So let's look at the daily. We're sitting on that. It's very much like the bonds. But by the way, for new viewers, the Japanese yen and the 10-year or the treasuries are almost mirrors of themselves.
Mm.
So on the daily, yeah, look.
You got the yen up on the left, Coach.
All right, we're right up near that 200-day moving average we've been playing. But here again, here comes the 20-day moving average is going up, and it's being bought down there. Every time, look at the low on that today. We wick down there with not much volume, so there's bids down there. So it seems that larger entities are buying this lower. That's continuing. Excuse me, that was the 50-day, the purple.
50-day down there. Yep.
Yeah. This market it's turning after this long bear market. So I like it. I'm looking to buy it. As Hogue put out, watch a dollar weakness. Um, this is a great contract. I like trading this because it doesn't have what is the daily ATR? It's less than 100.
Okay.
So you can afford to trade it without worrying about blowing up your account.
Yep.
But trading it from the long side, if you're looking for dollar weakness, trading the yen is one good way to do it with smaller accounts.
Good stuff, Coach. Thank you for that. Coach Paul's scouting report. I have nothing left. Just quick announcement. Um, it's Liberation Day, so you thought you got enough Top Step TV. We got more coming for you. Just got a note that we will be broadcasting the reopen. The Globex Open is going to start at 4:55 Central Time here on YouTube on Topstep TV. And if you haven't liked the video already, like it because we're bringing you more Topstep TV for you. So get outside. We're gonna go ahead and end the stream maybe a little bit here, so we can all take a deep breath, recoup, maybe take a shower. You got some time. See the sun if you haven't done so already. Step outside, and we will be back at 4:55 Central Time on Topstep TV to broadcast the reopen. Trade well, everyone. Manage your risk, especially in these environments where volatility is increasing. Volatility means opportunity, but there's also opportunity to lose trades as well. So trade your setups, trade your plans. Don't rush into anything. Don't over leverage, because if we get 1,000 point moves in 6 minutes, Coach, I could trade a one lot micro and be a very happy man. Uh,
Yeah,
so
because you can't afford to trade much more than that
right,
by the volatility.
right. Yeah, 100%. And I'll answer one more question. It's actually the one question that we got from Andrew for the day. Thank you to Andrew for always helping us run these streams. We got one question. We'll end it with this one. What is the reason for this sell-off? That is from Bottom Catcher. Tariffs. Happy Tariff Day, everybody. We will see you all tomorrow. I'm Coach Jay. That is Coach Paul. This was At the Buzzer. Talk to you soon. Thanks, Coach.
Goodbye. Thank you.